This is the Minding My Own Business webinar series. My name is Dirk Dieters. I'm the Executive Director of the Fremont Group. The Fremont Group sponsors this series, and we post them on our Patreon site for our clients and for some of them for the general public. This week we're talking about communications and your communications plan. Fremont Group is a nonprofit organization. We support small business owners. We've been doing so since approximately 2001. We offer our core business, which is small business management, consulting, mentoring, and coaching. Those services are provided by our success partners. In recent months, we have now converted to entirely online through Zoom presentations and working with our clients through Zoom. But you can also bring us in, but it's much more less expensive, and we think just about as effective, and you get better bang for your buck by doing it by Zoom. We also do accounting for many of our clients. Outsourced accounting is considerably cheaper than hiring in-house. It also has a number of advantages in that you don't have to worry about turnover, you don't have to worry about vacations, you don't have to worry about competency, any of those types of things. And we also customize it to the reporting that your business will need. We have a website, tfginfo.org, which I hope you'll visit. There you can schedule exploratory consultations, accounting consultations, minding my own business workshops, and all of our different services right there. Even our client services are provided, can be scheduled there. We have our Patreon site, which is our blog, patreon.com/the Fremont Group with no spaces. This is where we post all of our webinars, all of our blog information, and so on and so forth. It is a public website. However, to get to the main webinars, you have to be a patron. To get a lot of the stuff. There's two different levels of patrons, and then our clients are also there too. They have an even higher level of service. If you go there, you'll see what those are. We also make referrals for taxes. We make referral for financing and some for other areas. Today we're going to talk about communications. The Minding My Own Business webinar series is broken into 6 main sections which follow the book which I wrote of Minding My Own Business, which you can buy online on Amazon. And it goes through the 6 responsibilities of the small business owners. In the first 2 months of the year, we do the first one, then the next 2 months, and so on and so forth. The first 2 months of this year were the first responsibility, and that is to make a minimum mandatory percentage of profit. The second 2 months, we covered creating a cost controls so that the minimum mandatory percentage of profit is actually produced. And then in the next 2 months, which is where we are right now, we talk about creating an organizational structure that enforces the cost controls so that those minimum mandatory percentage of profit will actually be produced. And so that's the theory, and that's the sequences that we go through. Each 2 months we have a main webinar interactive that is posted on our Patreon site just for clients, and then every week we also post a follow-up webinar of some sort or a blog post on those different topics. Today, the topic that ties into your organizational structure is communications. There's a difference between communications and reporting. And reporting has been covered in some of the other issues. Communications, however, is how do you communicate? How does your company communicate to your employees? What is it you're trying to communicate? How do you do so? With our clients, we put together our operations manual, and part of that is the communications plan. Communications just don't happen. They have to be created. And by creating a communications plan, you can completely change the morale and the direction of your company. There are different types and purposes of communications. There are meetings, And there are three kinds of meetings: the huddles and the daily communications, the intermediate, say, weekly meetings of updates, and monthly, and then that can tie one way or another into your company plan overall type thing. A second need of communications are the expectations of your employees. What are you expecting of them? Do they understand it? How do you communicate to them? That is typically done through basically job description type things. And then evaluations. The last type of communication is, have the people lived up to and done their evaluations? We did talk about that in our accountability webinar, but we're going to expand upon that here. So let's start with meetings. What kind of meetings does your company have? Are they regularly scheduled? Are they done properly? Are they ad hoc? What are they? And why should you even have them? First of all, no one will tell you, oh, I love meetings, probably because they're very, very poorly run. And the first rule of a meeting is anything over 45 minutes is a therapy session. So unless you are a licensed therapist, we suggest you keep your meetings to less than 45 minutes. What they do is you can communicate to them the importance of them in a number of different ways. Our first suggestion is not to start meetings on the hour. Always start them 2 minutes before the hour. You tell someone the meeting is at 2 o'clock, they come in around 2 o'clock. You tell them the meeting is at 1:58, and you actually start at 1:58 consistently, and they get the picture. It makes a big difference. What kinds of meetings do you have? Well, you have the daily huddles, which should be done each day. With a daily huddle, it's what are we doing? And these should usually need egg timer on something like this. Set it to 5 minutes. When the bell goes off, you stop, you get out of it. But at the start of each day, it's what is the play we're going to run today? How are we going to do this? Okay, Susie, you're doing this. Joe, you're doing that. Bob, you're going to be out today, so make sure that Susan takes care of this, blah, blah, blah. No big discussions, just communications of what is going to happen that particular day. Then you probably need weekly meetings of some kind. A weekly meeting sees the progress that was completed for that week, where you stand, where you want them to move the next week. And then you also have larger picture meetings, which are, say, at a company picnic or something like that, where every 6 months or something like that, you reassure people as to the direction of the company, and here's where we stand, and this is where we're going, and so on and so forth. One of the important things that our success partners do is we like to measure the attitudes of your employees. There's a theory that says on one side your employees can be in fear, and the other side they can be in entitlement. And those are two opposites. Fear is, oh my gosh, I don't know if the company's going to be here. I don't know if I'm going to have a job. I don't know where we're going. Those kinds of things. Entitlement is the company owes me. I do this, I get paid because I show up, not because I produce anything, so on and so forth. And so the remedial actions that you would take depend very much on where your company's attitudes fall. So we'll take a evaluation of those things, and that then creates a direction that you want to take your company. And the meetings get tailored to that sort of approach. If you're and you get your best productivity if you're between the two. You're not in fear and you're not in entitlement. So after you've taken it, if you have a company that's very much in entitlement, that's a disassociation of results from compensation. And so we need to retie those things together and push those things together in your meetings. If it's fear, we want to do a lot of reassurance that where you're going, these are good jobs, here's where you stand, these are the things that happen, and so on and so forth. What is the real purpose of these meetings? What can they accomplish? Focus. Focus, focus, focus. Your daily huddle can be the steering wheel for your management. You go into that daily huddle that only lasts a couple of minutes, and you say, okay, this is what's going on, so on and so forth. But then also create a focus point. This is what we're trying to accomplish today. Okay, let's see if we can do it. If we can do this 5 days in a row, we'll have pizza on Friday, or we do whatever it might be. And then you move on to the next thing. If you continuously change your focus point to move the company in the direction that you're trying to do so, it's your steering wheel. It does allow you to get to where you want to be, to accomplish the things that you're trying to get accomplished. And then lastly, that big picture, that is necessary. People need to know where the company stands, where they stand. This can help considerably also with your climbers, that they know that there are things on the horizon, that, oh, there's going to be more opportunities here, there's places I can go, and so on and so forth. And they don't feel like the company is just stagnant and I'm just here, and maybe I ought to go across the street because I have more opportunity. So there's a lot of purposes for meetings, and if done properly, they can be very, very valuable. You should always have a regular schedule for meetings. We have our financial meeting at 2 o'clock on Tuesdays. We have our sales meeting at 1 o'clock on Wednesdays. We have our operations meeting at 4 o'clock every day. Whatever your schedule works out. But you do have to have every week a financial meeting. You have to have an operations meeting. You have to have a sales meeting with your key people in it. And the focus created within those things, that you're following what has to happen. That's why you have meetings. Those are the type of meetings that you have to have. We sit down with a success partner, and we can lay that out. We help you create schedules and create agendas for the meetings, create notebooks that they go into, ways to distribute the minutes, so to speak, although it doesn't have to be quite that formal, but just the results and what you're expecting before the next week and so on. But always the expectations that should come out of it should be put in writing and distributed back out, so that's where you can start your next week's meeting from. So, how do you communicate to your people what is expected of them? Each position, what are the expectations? And as we covered back in the cost controls, the results that are expected out of each position tied directly back to your budget, which is your financial plan designed to produce a predetermined positive result. And so we know what has to happen. So how do we communicate to them? That is what the job description should describe. The job description should be, this is what the results are that I expect from this position. You don't give them a list of tasks. That's where people go wrong in job descriptions. That is a training manual. All the lists of tasks that have to be done to produce the result you want to have, or you're trying to produce out of that position, that's the training manual. And you go through those different tasks and how they're done so that they understand how to do it. If your focus is always on the tasks, you're micromanaging the person. Proper management, as we talked about in leadership or one of the other ones, talks about how you focus on, did they provide you the result? That's what's critical. And then there's also the employee manual, which is an entirely separate thing. The employee manual covers the your vacation policies and your on time and late and your legal procedures and your sexual harassment policies, and all of those different things should be in an employee manual, which is much more of a legal document, HR document type of thing, than is your job description or your training manual. All of three of those are put together and put into the company operations manual, which is the company Bible. It's how the company is run, so that if someone else stepped into your position, they would say, oh, this is how the company is run. This is how, here are our job descriptions. This is what each person is supposed to be doing. Here are people trained. Here are legal procedures, so on and so forth. that is in your operations manual, and by completing that, which we'd go through with all of our clients, you end up with a document that you can use so that you can open a second location, or you can start delegating out to managers. Now, all of these are static. They are dynamic. Excuse me, I get them too mixed up all the time. But anyway, they're constantly changing. And it's a journey. It's not a destination. You can't, all of those phrases that people use are true. You should not be afraid to update them constantly as things go along. Employee evaluations. There's a lot of different strategies that can be used for employee evaluations. Work with your success partner and know your people to try to identify the ones that work the best. And in some cases, at different levels, you may have different strategies, some for top management, some for middle management, some for line workers, and so on and so forth. But in general, let's talk about some general rules. What we like to do, and you can work with your success partner to develop this, is to start off with tying together incentives and evaluations. You lay out, determine, say, 4 results that you're expected to produce from your position, and then ask the employee to add one more to it, something personally that they want to accomplish, something just in their personal life, in their professional life, whatever it is. Say they want to take a class, they want to learn to speak Spanish, or they want to learn to use Excel better, whatever it might be, okay? Put that one in there as a 5th one. And then as you've laid out now and you say, okay, here are the things that you're supposed to be accomplishing, here's our 4 ways we're going to evaluate you, and the 5th one that you've put in there, say you could then make each one worth 20% of a bonus type situation, and they feel like they have some input to it. The employee evaluations, though, have to start off with a clear job description that says, here is what is expected of you, here's what the results are. And then through your intermediate reporting, if you want to have your incentives or what have you put together, your evaluations done, say, every 6 months, okay, fine. Each month they can evaluate themselves and turn that into you in the form of reporting so it follows along. I don't think it's best in most situations to have cash incentives paid based upon anything other than did they produce more than you have already paid them to do. In other words, if you're paying them to produce X results, there's no cash bonuses of any kind until it reaches X plus 1 or X plus 5 or whatever number you determine is appropriate. Otherwise, all you're doing is increasing your payroll, and it doesn't make sense. If incentives are used properly in a value-added situation like that, you really don't need to give raises unless you're giving the person more responsibility. That was talked about back in the organizational structures things, so I'm not going to dwell on it. But when an employee comes to you and says they want to earn more money, you say, great, these are the results you're supposed to be producing. If you can produce X plus whatever, okay, we have this in it for you, and you can make some more money. Or, this department needs some help. I could move some of the responsibilities off of that, give it to you, and with that extra responsibility comes a higher base pay. You can go either way with that, but you have to have those things defined ahead of time if you're going to be able to deal with it. So incentives and evaluations should tie right in together. So a critical part of your operations manual is your communications plan. How are we going to communicate, firstly, what is expected out of each position and each person? How are we going to evaluate that? And then how are we going to communicate it through meetings? Now, some people will say, oh, we don't need meetings. We're a small company. I just go around and talk to everybody. That's probably one of the most dangerous things you can do. The reason being, I don't care what organization it is. Let's say you have 5 people that you have to talk to. You go around and you talk to individually each day or whatever. Sooner or later, person number 1 isn't going to believe that you're saying the same thing to everybody. Or person number 2 is going to say, I don't think you're saying the same thing to me that you said to them, or whatever. Too much behind your back, so on and so forth. The communications eliminate, by having effective meetings, eliminates that. And meetings don't have, I hope we've conveyed to you the idea that meetings don't have to be drawn out and long and so on. They should almost be exciting, something that people look forward to, because they're going to find out where things stand, what they have to do, what's happening today, what's happening this week, did we accomplish what we wanted last week, so on and so forth, and where's the company going. If they get those kinds of things in a very quick format, then it's much more effective than any kind of, I'm just going to go around and talk to people. I've alluded a couple times here to our success partners, and our success partners are people who have been there and done that. They're assigned to each of our clients, and we'll do first an initial consultation so that we really get to know each other, and that we've identified the rocks in the road and the things that have to be done, and put together a complete action plan of where you're trying to go with your goals and what we see has to happen to get there, where we can help and where you can do it yourself, and so on and so forth. What's really important in our role as success partners is the constant contact. Sure, we do an intensive initial consultation, and sometimes we do some more intensive projects that tie in with to provide support and help. But every week, the client schedules a Zoom meeting where we talk with the client, we go back through them, we give them a focus point for the week, we follow up on things, we make sure the implementation of the stuff that we're putting together actually happens. I would like you to start with an exploratory consultation to think about it. They're free. We can be contacted 303-338-9300. As I said, I'm Dirk Dieters. I'm the Executive Director. You'll probably get me right there. You can send an email to us at admin@tfginfo.org. Go to our website, www.tfginfo.org, and there you can find out more about each of our services. You can sign up for a free exploratory consultation. In that exploratory consultation, by the way, we do have proprietary diagnostic materials that we go through, asking you a number of questions, putting together different things, and identifies your strengths and weaknesses compared to other businesses, and starts identifying areas that and whether or not it's worth trying to do anything about them, as to how much they cost you and so on and so forth. But we identify those areas, and you get a pretty good evaluation of where your company stands, and that's done in a half an hour. It's time well invested. We also have full Minding My Own Business workshops. You can schedule those. There we go through the 6 responsibilities of a small business owner and compare your company to each one of those. It's very interactive. It's done completely interactive. You ask questions and you can tie into things and so on. And also visit our Patreon site. There you can find our blog, webinars, and other information there. So we hope to hear from you. Again, I'm Dirk Dieters with the Fremont Group. Give us a call, 303-338-9300, and let's go make some money.